Hey, sixth graders, this is lesson 4, day 5, and you are going to be practicing everything you learned about solving problems with rate and unit rate. So here's how it's going to work. First off, your book needs to be on page 34, ready to go. If it's not, pause the video and get on page 34. Second, you should have a calculator with you because you could use that to help you throughout this lesson. Third, if I give directions, for example, if I tell you to pause the video to work on a problem, make sure you do that. That's how you're going to learn the most. So now let's get started. So in your book on page 34, they have this example at the top already filled out, but I whited it out because I want you to see how I'm going to solve it. So the plan is I'll go over this example, and then you are going to be working on the other problems on 34 and 35. There's only 3 other problems on your own. With the pair shares, sometimes I'll have you do it, sometimes I'll do it. So that will be the pair share part. Anyway, let's get started. So in the example, it says a hose fills an 18-gallon tub in 3 minutes. I'm going to write that down because that's my ratio. How long will it take to fill a 45-gallon tub? So first thing I know is my ratio is 18 gallons in 3 minutes. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out the rate. Now, I know the rate. All I have to do is divide 18 by 3, and I'll get the rate, right? So if I divide by 3, I get the rate. So the rate is 6 gallons per 1 minute. Now then, remember, the unit rate is just 6 gallons. The unit rate is the number without the 1. Now that unit rate you could use to solve any amount of problems. So if it's 6 gallons in a minute, the question says how long will it take to fill a 45-gallon tub? So if I could just take the 45 gallons and divide it by 6 gallons, remember this is the unit rate right here, I'll get my answer. And 45 divided by 6 is 7.5 minutes, or 7.5 minutes. Now, notice up here what this lady says. It says the student used the information in the problem to find the unit rate. Remember, the unit rate was 6 gallons. The unit rate can be used to find the time for any number of gallons. Now, this is a pair share I am going to have you do. So we figured out that what was the question? How long will it take to fill 45 gallons? So 45 gallons in 7.5 minutes, right? So we figured out that ratio right there. Now what I want you to do is pause the video, and you're going to answer this pair share in a sentence or two, and you can write it right here where you have some room. So the question says, how long would it take to fill a 90-gallon tub? So remember, you could use this information here to answer this question. So pause the video, write 1 to 2 sentences to explain your answer. Go. All right, so now let's see how you did in this one. So the answer should be, if you think, if I go up to my 45 gallons in 7.5 minutes, if I wanted to go to 90 gallons, I would just multiply, not by 9, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's hard to talk and write at the same time. I would just double it, times 2, would get me 90 gallons. So if I double 7.5, I'll get 15 minutes. So my answer would be, it will take 15 minutes to fill 90 gallons because you just double the ratio. Okay? So if you had that, remember, you don't need to have my exact words. You're good to go. If you had it wrong, make sure you pause it and make your corrections. All right, so now, before you do the other problems, I just want to remind you of what we did. To answer this question, I took the ratio change it to a rate, and then I use the unit rate to figure out the answer. You could do that for any one of these problems. Now we're going to do these one question at a time. So what I want you to do, pause the video, do number 24, show your work, and write your solution. You don't have to explain anything, just make sure you show your work. All right, pause it, restart it when you're done. Go. Okay, let's see how you did. So in number 24 it says, a store sells 4 ears of corn for $1. How much will 9 ears cost? So I want to take the ratio. So it's $1 for 4 ears of corn, right? And I want to figure out the rate. So I want to figure out the cost of 1 ear. So to do that, you just divide. Remember, you divide $1 by the number of ears. So $1 divided by 4. Let's think of it here. If you divide it by 4, you get 25 cents. So the rate is 25 cents for 1 ear. Now, if you know 25 cents for 1 ear, remember this also gives you your unit rate right here. So just think, 1 ear of corn costs 25 cents. So this wants to know how much 9 ears will cost. Well, if 1 ear is 25 cents, to get 9 ears, you would just multiply by 9. And 25 cents times 9 ears is $2.25 for 9 ears. All right, so that's your solution to that one. It's going to be, I'll just write $2.25 down here. All right, now, if you had it right, as long as you showed your work, you're good to go. If you had it wrong, fix your mistake. Pause the video while you do that. Okay, now, this pair share says, suppose you have $1.35 to spend. Why can't you spend that exact amount on corn? So in this part of the pair share, I'll do this part. I'll share this part. So think about it for a second. Maybe a ratio table will help you understand this. So I'm going to do a couple columns here. So up here is money. Up here is ears of corn. And we know the rate is, it's 25 cents for 1 ear of corn, right? So this says, if you have $1.35, why can't you spend that exact amount? So imagine 2 ears would be 50 cents. 3 ears would be 75 cents. 4 ears, would be $1. 5 ears would be $1.25. 6 ears would be $1.50. You will never hit $1.35 because if 1 ear of corn costs 25 cents, 25 cents doesn't go into $1.35. So I'm going to write my answer here, and you could write it with me. Yes, you will write it with me. You can't spend exactly $1.35 because 25 cents does not go into $1.35. Okay, so if you have to pause the video to get your answer, you can do that. So that's my part of the pair share. On the next page, you're going to be doing your part. All right, let's go to page 35 if you're ready. So on page 35, here's what you're going to do. Let's read 25 and then we'll get you started. It says, the male elephant at a city zoo weighs 8,000 pounds, which is the same as 4 tons. So we know 8,000 pounds is 4 tons. The female elephant weighs 7,000 pounds. How many tons does she weigh? Now you're going to pause this and do 25 and restart it when you're done. Now I'm going to tell you for this one, when I show my work, I'm going to do a ratio table instead of how I did it in 24. You do it however you want. Just get your answer. All right, show your work, pause it, restart when you're done. Go. Okay, let's see how you did. So first off, I told you I'm doing a ratio table, right? So let me get a beautiful table set up. I'm going to set up some lovely columns. All right, so we know 8,000 pounds is 4 tons, right? So here's 1 ton, 2 tons, 3 tons, 4 tons, and here's 8,000 pounds. So I'm going to put LB up here, and I'm going to put T down here for tons to label it. Now, this says the female elephant weighs 7,000 pounds. So let me go through and fill in some of this table. Now, I know, to go from 4 to 2, I just cut it in half, right? So half of 4 is 2, half of 8,000 is 4,000. To go from 2 to 1, I could just cut that in half. So we know, and by the way, this is our rate. There are 2,000 pounds in 1 ton. So you could just take that 2,000 and multiply it by whatever you need to do to get to 7,000. But I think I have another solution here. So watch this. I notice each of these is counting by 2,000. 2,000, 4,000. That means this is 6,000, right? Now, it says the female elephant weighs 7,000 pounds. Now, 7,000 is exactly between 6,000 and 8,000, right? So, what's exactly between 3 and 4? Wouldn't it be 3 and a half? So, my answer to this one, it says, how many tons does the elephant weigh? So, the answer would be 3 and a half tons. Okay, now remember that. You might not have done it that way. I just showed you with a ratio table how we can find the halfway point between 6,000 and 8,000. But if you have the answer, good. If you don't, pause it and fix it. But now, let's go here. This says, why do you know that the answer must be slightly less than 4? So remember, our answer, 3 and a half, was a little bit less than 4. Okay, so how would you know that without doing any math? That's the question, just using common sense. So I want you to pause this video, and I want you to write a sentence or two. You could write it wherever you have room, right around here. Just telling me how you would know the answer would be slightly less than 4. Remember, don't worry if you're not 100% sure. Write down your thoughts. That's what counts here. All right, pause the video, write your thoughts, restart it when you're done. Go. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. Remember, you don't have to have my exact answer. So I know the answer must be slightly less than 4, right? So I'm going to say, I know 4 tons is 8,000 pounds, and 3 tons is 6,000 pounds. So, to get the tons in 7,000 pounds, oops, not 7,000 B, 7,000 pounds, it must be slightly less than 4 tons. Because think about it. 3 tons is too low, because remember, that goes down to 6,000. We only have to go down to 7,000. 4 tons is 8,000. That's too high. So it's got to be a little bit less than 4, because if you go all the way down to 3, you're to go too far. So that's all I said in my own words. You do not need my exact words. Remember. All right. So let's go to 26. Now, number 26, you're going to be doing this in a second, but let's go through it because there's a couple things you have to do. First, read the question here and answer it. A, B, C, or D. Show your work in this space here. Yes, you could use a calculator. Now, 2 things you're going to do after you, or 3 things, because 1, you're going to choose your answer, A, B, C, D. 2, it says Natalia chose D as the correct answer. How did she get that answer? Now, you know the answer is not going to be D, right? Because Natalia chose D. So, but I do want you to write that part. Now, what I want you to do, we're going to split this in half. So answer the question about Natalia there. But then, after you do that, you're going to write your pair share answer right on this side. Okay? So, pause it, show your work to answer his question, write about Natalia, write the pair share, restart it when you're done. Go. All right, so let's talk about this one. All right, so this one says, Victor needs 30 feet of rope. The rope he wants to buy is sold by the yard. He knows that there are 3 feet in 1 yard. How many yards should he buy? So, here's what I'm going to do first. There's 3 feet and 1 yard. Now notice that is our rate because it's 3 over a 1. All right. Now it says he needs 30 feet of rope. So he needs 30 feet. So what I'm going to do is just multiply. I know 3 times 10 gets us 30, right? So to get my answer, I would multiply 1 yard by 10. And that will get us 10 yards, which is the answer, A. Okay, so if you had it wrong, you do want to pause it and fix that part. But if you had it right, maybe you did a ratio table, whatever you did is fine. So far, so good. Now the question is, it says, Natalia chose D as the correct answer. How did she get that answer? Now, you might have something totally different from me, but here's kind of what I'm thinking. To go from to get the answer, one way you could go from 30 feet to the answer of 10 yards is just to say, well, I know there's 3 feet in a yard. You would just do 30 divided by 3 and get 10, right? But what if you didn't know to divide by 3? What if you're like, okay, maybe you multiply by 3? What would that get you? That would get you 90. So that's what I'm thinking what Natalia did, but you don't have to think the same thing as me in this one. So I'm going to say Natalia might have, because who knows what she did, multiplied 30 feet by 3 instead of dividing by 3. I don't know. Maybe that's what she did. Maybe she did something different. So whatever you have there is going to be fine. Now the last thing, why would the problem be more difficult if he needed to find the number of yards in 35 feet? So in order to answer this one, I'm actually going to go up and solve that. So imagine, let me erase everything back here. Get rid of this junk. And imagine you needed to find the number of yards in 35 feet. Well, think of it here. To go into 35, you'd have to think, how do you 3 times what is 35? Well, 3 doesn't go into 35, right? Now, if you do 35 divided by 3, you can still get your answer. Now, if you type that into the calculator, you're going to get a repeating decimal. You're going to get 11.66666, 11.6 repeating. But the answer is, as a fraction, 11 2/3 yard. So you can see it's a lot more complicated. Now, why is it more complicated? Well, it's basically because 3 doesn't go into 35 without a remainder. So why would it be more difficult? Remember, you might have something different here. I'm going to say it, not if, I'm having a hard time writing today. It would be more difficult because 3 doesn't go into 35 evenly. Okay, that's all I'm writing. Good sentence there. All right, so remember, you don't have to have my exact answer. Now, you're done with me for this lesson. Thanks for watching.